Navigating relationships, especially when emotions run deep, can sometimes feel like walking on a tightrope. It's not just about finding love. It's about understanding the little things that make people hesitant, uncertain, and sometimes even afraid to fully open up. Love is supposed to be beautiful, right? But for some, it's complicated by fears, past scars, and insecurities they can't always explain. If you've ever been with someone who shows deep affection, yet seems to struggle with fully embracing the relationship, you might have noticed certain patterns in their behavior. They might act distant or get nervous over small details, and it leaves you questioning, does she love me? Why is she holding back? What you might not realize is that her hesitation isn't about you or your love. It's about her inner world, shaped by experiences, fears, and a desire to protect herself from potential heartbreak. She loves you, but there's a part of her that's terrified of getting hurt. Sometimes love becomes more than just a beautiful connection. It turns into a delicate dance between vulnerability and self-protection. You might find her pulling back when things are going well, testing your commitment subtly, or overanalyzing every little thing you do. These actions aren't signs of indifference. They're signs of someone who has been wounded before and is now afraid to fall too deep again. It's easy to misinterpret these actions and think she doesn't care or that she's unsure of her feelings. But in reality, she's likely experiencing the very thing that makes love both exhilarating and terrifying: vulnerability. It's in those moments of hesitation, overthinking, and fear that she's showing you just how much she values the relationship and how deeply she fears losing it. Every step she takes toward letting go of her defenses is a leap of faith, one that she doesn't take lightly. But what are the signs that reveal her true feelings, even if she's too afraid to express them directly? How can you recognize that she's in love, even when it seems like she's holding back? The key is to notice the subtle, sometimes contradictory actions that speak volumes about her emotional state. From getting nervous when talking about the future with you, to avoiding deep emotional conversations despite caring deeply, these signs are all part of the same complex picture. A woman who loves, but is scared. These signs might be confusing at first, but when you understand where they come from, you'll see that they're a reflection of how much she truly cares. It's her way of protecting herself while navigating the complex emotions that come with love. So, if you've noticed certain behaviors, don't mistake them for lack of interest. Instead, recognize them for what they are: signs that she's in love but too afraid to fully let go. 1. She gets nervous when talking about the future with you. She might avoid talking about the future with you, or when the topic does come up, you'll notice her getting uneasy or nervous. It's not because she doesn't care about you or the relationship, but because she's afraid of what could happen. The idea of planning a future together can feel overwhelming to her, especially if she has been hurt in the past. The fear of getting too attached or having her heart broken again makes her hesitant. You might catch her fidgeting or looking down when the subject of long-term commitments comes up, or she might quickly change the topic to keep things light and casual. Even if her feelings for you are deep, she might not yet trust the situation enough to imagine a shared future. It's not that she doesn't see the potential, but the fear of losing something good before it's fully formed keeps her guarded. She could also be worried about her own personal growth, not wanting to feel trapped in a relationship before she's certain about her own goals and dreams. This nervousness isn't about you or your relationship. It's more about her internal struggle to protect herself. She's testing the waters, unsure if she's ready to dive in fully. Deep down, she wants to believe in your future together, but her past experiences make her approach these conversations with caution. So, if she gets anxious when you talk about the future, it's a sign that her love for you is real, but her fear of getting hurt is holding her back. 2. She avoids deep emotional conversations despite caring for you. When she avoids deep emotional conversations, it might seem like she's pulling away, but in reality, it's her way of protecting herself. Even though she cares deeply about you, opening up about her feelings can feel like a risk. It's not that she doesn't trust you, but there's a part of her that fears being vulnerable. Being emotionally open means allowing someone to see the real, raw parts of her, parts that she's not ready to share or that she's afraid could be used against her later. She might change the subject when you try to have serious talks, or steer the conversation in a lighter direction, keeping things surface level. This is her defense mechanism kicking in. She may want to tell you how much you mean to her, but the fear of revealing too much and getting hurt in return makes her hold back. In some cases, she might have been hurt in past relationships and learned to build walls around her heart as a way to cope. Even though she loves you, the idea of being completely vulnerable can feel like an emotional gamble. She might fear that once she opens up, it might all fall apart, or that her emotions will be rejected. The fact that she avoids deep conversations doesn't mean she doesn't care. It simply shows that she's still learning how to trust you with her heart, and it takes time for her to feel safe enough to let those walls down. She's testing the waters, hoping you'll be patient and understanding as she works through her fears. 3. She sometimes seems distant, even though she cares a lot. There are moments when she may seem distant or a bit detached, even though you know she cares deeply about you. This behavior can be confusing, especially if you're used to her being warm and affectionate. But the truth is, her seeming distance isn't a reflection of how she feels about you. It's more about her own inner turmoil. When she pulls back, it's often because she's struggling with her own emotions. Loving someone so deeply can feel overwhelming for her, especially if she's afraid of getting hurt or losing control. She might put up emotional walls to protect herself, even if it's subconsciously. It's not that she doesn't want to be close to you. It's that she's unsure how to manage her feelings without risking emotional pain. Sometimes this distance can happen when she feels vulnerable, or if she's been hurt in the past and fears the same thing happening again. When things are going well, she might pull away because it feels too good to be true, and she's afraid of the possibility that it could come crashing down. It's her way of keeping a little emotional space, just in case. The key thing to remember is that this behavior doesn't mean she doesn't care. It's simply her way of dealing with the fear of getting hurt. If you notice this happening, try to be patient with her and let her know you're there when she's ready to let down her guard. The love is still there. She just needs a little time to navigate her fears. 4. She overthinks small things you say or do. When she starts overthinking small things you say or do, it's often a sign that her feelings for you run deep. Every word or action holds weight for her because she cares so much. She'll analyze even the tiniest gesture or phrase, wondering if it means something more than it actually does. Did she say something wrong? Was that joke you made a sign of something deeper? It's not that she's doubting you. It's more about her own insecurities and fears of being misunderstood or hurt. This habit of overthinking can be tied to her fear of rejection or emotional pain. She's hyper-aware of how her actions and words may be perceived, and in her mind, every little detail is connected to something much bigger. Did you respond to her message quickly enough? Did you seem distant when she needed you most? Even the smallest changes in your behavior might send her mind racing, trying to decode what they could mean for the relationship. In some ways, she's trying to protect herself by analyzing everything. If she can predict your reactions or understand the hidden meaning behind your words, maybe she can prevent any hurt or disappointment before it happens. However, this also means she can easily get stuck in a cycle of overthinking, which might make her seem anxious or distant at times. While this can be exhausting for her, it also shows how much she values your connection. It's a sign of her emotional investment, even if it sometimes makes her seem like she's overreacting to small things. 5. She is protective of her heart, even when you show love. Even when you shower her with love and affection, you might notice that she keeps her heart guarded. It's not that she doesn't appreciate everything you're doing. It's just that her past experiences have made her cautious. Her heart is like a treasure she holds close, and while she might want to let you in, there's always a small part of her that hesitates. She's been hurt before, and that emotional scar makes her protective of her feelings. She may have loved deeply in the past and been let down, which has led her to build walls around her heart. It's not that she doesn't trust you, but rather that she fears feeling vulnerable and exposed again. Loving someone fully means letting them have access to your deepest emotions, and for her, that can feel like a leap of faith, one that she's not always ready to take, even though she genuinely cares. You might see her hesitating to fully open up, even when she knows you have the best intentions. She may still withhold certain thoughts or feelings just to keep a little part of herself protected. While this can sometimes feel frustrating, it's a clear sign that she values the relationship enough to protect her heart, fearing the potential hurt if things go wrong. Her actions are driven by love, not by a lack of affection for you. She's simply trying to find the balance between being open and protecting herself. Over time, with patience and reassurance, she may slowly start to lower her guard, but until then, know that her protective nature comes from a place of fear, not a lack of love. 6. She doesn't open up completely about her past. When she doesn't open up completely about her past, it's likely because there are parts of her history that still feel too raw or painful to share. Even though she trusts you and cares deeply, there are emotional scars or experiences she hasn't fully processed yet. These past wounds might be too difficult to relive or talk about, and she's not sure how to open up about them without feeling exposed or vulnerable. The past could involve previous relationships that ended badly, family struggles, or personal challenges she hasn't yet found a way to talk about. She may fear that sharing these parts of her story could lead to judgment or misunderstandings, or even worse, that it might push you away. It's not that she's hiding things from you out of malice. Rather, she's protecting herself, keeping those pieces of her life locked away as a form of self-preservation. There's also the possibility that she feels ashamed or embarrassed by what happened in the past, and she worries it might affect how you see her now. She might think you could view her differently if you knew everything, or maybe she's still trying to make sense of those events in her own mind before sharing them with someone else. While she might not open up immediately, it doesn't mean she doesn't trust you. Over time, with patience and understanding, she may begin to share more as she feels safe enough to do so. Until then, it's important to recognize that her reluctance isn't about you. It's about her own journey of healing and finding the right moment to be vulnerable. 7. She gets anxious when things are going well between you two. When things are going well between you two, and you notice her starting to feel anxious or uneasy, it can be puzzling. You might wonder why she's not enjoying the peace and happiness in the relationship, especially when things seem perfect. The truth is, her anxiety doesn't come from a lack of love or appreciation for you. It stems from her fear of it all falling apart. When everything feels too good, it can trigger her insecurities or fears of losing something she values so much. She might be used to things falling apart in the past, or maybe she's had experiences where happiness was short-lived. As a result, she might start to worry about the other shoe dropping, or think that something bad is inevitably going to happen. The anxiety isn't because she doesn't want to be with you. It's because she's afraid of getting hurt if the good times don't last. She could also fear that things are moving too fast, or that this happiness is too good to be true. In her mind, it might be easier to prepare for disappointment than to let herself get fully swept up in the joy of the moment. This kind of anxiety can manifest in small ways, like her becoming distant or asking questions that show her hesitation, even though deep down, she wants everything to be perfect. It's important to understand that her anxiety is tied to her fear of vulnerability. She might be afraid that if she lets herself fall too deeply into the happiness you're offering, she'll lose her ability to protect herself. Reassurance, patience, and consistent love can help her work through those anxious feelings, but it will take time for her to fully believe that things can remain this good. 8. She pushes you away when things get too serious. When things start to get too serious between you two, you might notice her pulling back or pushing you away. This behavior can feel confusing, especially when everything seemed to be going well. The truth behind this is that as the relationship deepens, she may start to feel vulnerable. And for someone who has been hurt before or fears getting hurt, this vulnerability can trigger a need for emotional distance. As the connection grows stronger, it feels like the stakes are higher. She might begin to fear losing herself in the relationship or getting too attached, only to face heartache later. The thought of a deep commitment might feel overwhelming, and her instinct is to protect her heart by creating some space. She might tell herself that pulling away is a way of guarding against potential pain. This push-pull dynamic isn't about a lack of love or interest in you. It's her defense mechanism at work. When things start to get serious, it can trigger past insecurities, making her feel like she's risking too much by allowing someone to get so close. It's often easier for her to keep things light and less intense than to fully dive into something that requires emotional investment. If you notice this happening, it's important to give her space while also reassuring her that you're not going anywhere. Let her know that you're patient and willing to take things at a pace that feels comfortable for her. Over time, as she feels more secure, she may stop pushing you away and allow herself to embrace the relationship fully. 9. She avoids showing vulnerability, even if she trusts you. Even though she trusts you deeply, showing vulnerability can feel like a significant challenge for her. She might shy away from revealing her innermost thoughts and feelings, not because she doesn't trust you, but because vulnerability makes her feel exposed and at risk of getting hurt. She's afraid of letting her guard down too much, even in a relationship where she feels safe. For some people, vulnerability is linked to past pain. Perhaps past betrayals or emotional wounds have taught her that opening up leaves room for disappointment or heartache. She might have learned to keep her emotions close to her chest, not because she doesn't want to share, but because it feels safer to guard those deeper parts of herself. Even when she feels completely comfortable with you and trusts you wholeheartedly, the idea of showing weakness or emotional fragility can trigger fear. She might worry that letting you see her vulnerability could change how you perceive her, or that you might one day use it against her. This fear is often less about you and more about the emotional risks she's afraid of taking. It's important to remember that her reluctance to show vulnerability doesn't mean she's hiding something from you. It simply means that she's navigating her own fears. She might not know how to fully express her emotions or isn't yet comfortable with the idea of being completely open. If you continue to be patient and supportive, she may begin to share more over time, but only when she feels ready. 10. She gets jealous easily, but hides it to avoid showing weakness. When she gets jealous but hides it, it's often a sign that her feelings for you run deep and she cares more than she lets on. Even though she might appear calm on the outside, inside, she's battling with her emotions. Jealousy for her might feel like a sign of weakness, something she doesn't want to reveal, especially if she's afraid of coming across as insecure or possessive. Instead of showing how she feels, she might internalize her jealousy, pretending it doesn't bother her while her mind races. She could get upset when she sees you giving attention to someone else, but rather than expressing her discomfort, she bottles it up. She might even overanalyze small things, like how often you text or the way you interact with others, all while trying to maintain a composed exterior. Her desire to hide her jealousy often stems from a fear of being judged or misunderstood. She doesn't want you to think she's insecure or needy, so she'll keep her feelings to herself, even though deep down, she's struggling with the thought of losing you or feeling neglected. It's her way of trying to keep control over her emotions and not letting them spill over into the relationship in a way she fears might make things awkward or uncomfortable. This doesn't mean she doesn't trust you. It simply means she's afraid of looking vulnerable or showing signs of emotional dependence. If you notice her acting distant or withdrawn after a moment of jealousy, it's a sign that she's working through her feelings internally. Reassuring her with your affection and showing her that she's secure in your relationship can help ease those insecurities over time. 11. She doubts her worthiness of your love, even when you reassure her. Even when you reassure her with all the love and care in the world, she may still have moments of doubt about her worthiness of your affection. It's a painful, internal struggle where, despite all the evidence that you care, she can't help but question whether she truly deserves it. This often stems from deep-seated insecurities or past experiences that have made her feel unworthy of love. Her doubts may not reflect anything wrong with you or your relationship. They're usually tied to her own self-esteem issues. She may have experienced rejection or emotional neglect in the past, leading her to believe she's not good enough to be loved or cherished. Even when you express your feelings, she may have trouble internalizing them because, on some level, she's still fighting her own self-doubt. The reassurance you give her might ease her fears temporarily, but those doubts often resurface when she's alone with her thoughts. She might feel like she's unworthy of your time, attention, or love, and that any minute you might realize that she's not enough. It's not that she doesn't believe in your feelings, it's that she struggles to believe in her own worthiness. The key to helping her is patience. While you can reassure her, what she really needs is time and understanding to work through these feelings. Show her consistently that she's loved, valued, and enough just as she is. Over time, as she feels more secure in herself, she will likely start to believe that she truly deserves all the love you're giving her. Until then, a little extra love and care can go a long way. 12. She avoids introducing you to her close friends or family too soon. When she avoids introducing you to her close friends or family too soon, it's often a sign that she's cautious about the pace of the relationship and the emotional stakes involved. Even if she genuinely cares for you, opening up her personal world to someone is a big deal for her. She might see family and close friends as her inner circle, people who truly know her, and it takes a lot for her to invite someone new into that space. For her, introducing you to her loved ones means a certain level of seriousness that she's not yet sure she's ready for. There might be a fear of moving too fast or getting emotionally attached too quickly. She could also be unsure about how you'll mesh with the people who mean the most to her, and she wants to make sure the relationship is strong enough before bringing you into that personal part of her life. There's also the possibility that she's been hurt before, and in the past, introducing someone too soon to her family or friends didn't work out well. This could leave her hesitant to repeat that experience. She might fear judgment or the pressure of others' expectations, or even the idea that if things don't work out with you, it will be awkward for everyone involved. It's important to understand that her reluctance isn't a reflection of her feelings for you, but rather a protective mechanism. She values the relationship but wants to ensure it's built on a solid foundation before letting you into the most important parts of her life. With time and continued trust, she will likely become more comfortable and may eventually introduce you to those closest to her when she feels the moment is right. 13. She occasionally tests your commitment but downplays it. When she occasionally tests your commitment but downplays it, it can be a subtle way for her to gauge how secure she feels in the relationship. She might ask questions or make comments that challenge your loyalty or devotion, but often she'll downplay it as if it's no big deal. It's her way of checking to see if you're truly invested and if you'll stick around when things get tough. This behavior often comes from a place of fear. Fear that you might not be as committed as you appear, or that she might be more emotionally invested than you are. Her past experiences, whether from previous relationships or even childhood, could have shaped this need for reassurance. She might worry that if she doesn't test you, she'll be left heartbroken or disappointed. The tricky part is that she might not even realize she's doing it. It can feel like a natural instinct for her to seek validation, even if she trusts you deeply. She might drop hints like, "What would you do if I wasn't around?" or "Do you think we could last long term?" These questions are a way of feeling out the depth of your commitment without directly asking for reassurance. If you notice this pattern, it's important to respond with patience and honesty. Reassure her in a way that shows you're not just saying the right things, but that you genuinely care about building something lasting together. Over time, as she sees that you're consistent and reliable, she will likely feel less need to test you and start to relax into the relationship more. 14. She often hesitates to let you take the lead in the relationship. When she often hesitates to let you take the lead in the relationship, it can stem from a mix of personal control, past experiences, and her own emotional barriers. She may have been in situations before where trusting someone else to take charge ended in disappointment or hurt, so she's cautious about relinquishing control again. Whether it's in decision-making or making the first move, she may feel safer taking charge herself, even if she deeply cares for you. This hesitation could also reflect her desire for independence. Some people, especially those who've been let down in the past, struggle with the idea of giving up control, even if they're in a healthy relationship. Letting someone else lead feels like giving away a piece of her autonomy, which can be scary if she's not completely sure of the other person's consistency or intentions. Additionally, if she's been taught to be self-reliant or has faced situations where others haven't lived up to expectations, she might subconsciously resist letting you lead. This is not necessarily a sign that she doesn't trust you, but rather a defense mechanism shaped by her past. She wants to be sure that any step she takes is with someone who will be reliable and supportive. In these moments, it's important to be patient and understanding. Instead of pushing her to let go of control, try leading by example. Show her through your actions that you're reliable, thoughtful, and trustworthy. As the relationship progresses and she feels more secure with you, she might feel more comfortable allowing you to take the lead, knowing that her trust in you won't be misplaced. 15. She overanalyzes the smallest details of your interactions. When she overanalyzes the smallest details of your interactions, it's usually a sign that she's deeply invested in the relationship and cares about how things are unfolding. Every word, every look, and every gesture becomes significant in her mind. She might replay conversations over and over, searching for deeper meanings, wondering if she said something wrong, or if you meant something by your tone that she didn't catch. This tendency to analyze can come from a place of fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of making a mistake, or fear that something she said or did could push you away. Her mind might race through a million scenarios, questioning whether she did or said the right thing, wondering if you felt the same way, or overthinking how you might have responded. Even the smallest actions can become magnified. For example, if you didn't reply to her message right away, she might wonder if she said something off or if you're pulling away. This overthinking often stems from past experiences where things weren't clear or when she's been hurt by small miscommunications in the past. She wants to make sure everything is perfect because she cares so much and doesn't want to risk anything going wrong. It's her way of trying to maintain control over her emotions and the relationship, even though it can be mentally exhausting. The best way to ease this anxiety is through clear and honest communication. Reassure her when she's unsure, and show her through consistent actions that she doesn't need to overanalyze everything. Over time, as she feels more secure in your relationship, she'll begin to trust that the small things are not always as important as her mind makes them seem.